Over the past week or so, we've talked a lot about Overwatch League issues, and actually adding to that, guys, investors across many leagues out there. We've talked about tons of celebrities out there investing into several franchise leagues or esports in general. This time around Gary Vaynerchuk, a world-renowned entrepreneur out there, also has already invested in the Minnesota Rocker, has now described exactly why he chose Call of Duty League and avoided Overwatch League as an investment. I thought it was very curious, especially for all you viewers out there. A lot of you guys are Call of Duty fans or Overwatch fans. As we slowly approach the third season of Overwatch and the first of Call of Duty, I think it's very important to see where all of this big money does come from. As Gary Vee does mention, the Wilf family. If you guys do not know, a big reason as to why he invested into the Minnesota Rocker is because of the Wilf family, a billionaire family also tied to the Minnesota Vikings. Alongside that, he trusts his intuition around American culture, and he sees that Call of Duty League was a better investment than Overwatch League, which I think adds a lot to what we've seen so far, because when we look over the stats, even Call of Duty League seems to be a very far-fetched and stretched investment in terms of a possible return. We know the $25+ million spots alongside the many other expenses that come with the Call of Duty League. With the viewership also not being there, it seems pretty crazy that someone like Gary Vee would be more interested in Call of Duty League than Overwatch League, despite how they both look very rough. I think it just goes and adds to how crazy it is that Overwatch League and all of their impending struggles, well, they're continuing. So here's Gary Vee and his reasoning as to why he chose Call of Duty League over Overwatch League.
Hi, Gary. Matey here.
Hey.
Quick question: what was a driving factor that had you investing in Call of Duty as opposed to maybe esports that are larger on the global scale, like League of Legends or Dota 2?
The relationship with the Wilfs, the opportunity that was in front of me. I had opportunities with Overwatch. I didn't want to go there. My own personal intuition of League of Legends versus Call of Duty, me being comfortable with starting, back to my miraculous capabilities of understanding humans, I'm at my prime with America. I'm getting really strong in Asia and the UK and other places, but I'm an 11 in America. I'm a 7.9 in other parts of the world, so that gave me triple confidence. The culture, when I looked at who are the 18-year-old basketball players, who are the 17-year-old rappers, who are the 13-year-old TikTokers of today that I believed subjectively on intuition would be here in a decade, and what's their relationship with video games? Call of Duty is way up there. So that feels like cultural relevance for a decade versus not. That's the answer.
And Gary's not the first one to actually choose Call of Duty, and these guys probably likely had other choices in terms of esports organizations or franchise leagues to invest into. Michael B. Jordan also chose Call of Duty League. He actually chose Andbox and the New York Subliners, and along with him, it was actually Dave Portnoy from Barstool Sports. A couple days ago, we talked about this, who also had the opportunity to invest into Call of Duty League, and he's still kind of on the whim of whether or not he will do that either himself or with Barstool as well. And if we look at just short viewership numbers, I'm sure I'll bring this up in the future for all of you guys as well. I think just about any Call of Duty fan watching can admit and knows that the viewership in terms of stats wise, as this league buy-in price being so high, the viewership is just not there to make sense. As of right now, Overwatch has their TV deals, and we still have yet to announce a TV deal for Call of Duty League, which was kind of leaked at by the Minnesota Rocker themselves, has not yet finalized as well. If there is no TV deal, the viewership is just not there. We look at the main channels for Overwatch League, although yes, some declining viewership across, I would say, season 1 and 2. The numbers are a bit, they're skeptical, but with that being said, you see Overwatch League nearly 4 times the viewership than the Call of Duty channel, and that's across. Also on top of that, Call of Duty is going to have way less weekends, so hopefully viewership will increase, and I think it will. Overwatch, though, they sustain almost 4 times the viewership through 27 weeks. 4 different stages, playoffs and grand finals, which albeit is pretty impressive with the league season being that long and that strenuous as compared to Call of Duty, who have now reduced their number of events. I am super curious what season 1 viewership will pull for Call of Duty, and obviously going to be very important. Also on top of that, when it comes time for peak viewership out there, we look towards one of the most watched grand finals for Call of Duty history, that being COD Champs 2018, just pulling over 300,000 viewers concurrently. We look towards that comparable to an Overwatch Overwatch League playoffs matchup, which is also around the same viewership, but not comparable to Overwatch League Grand Finals, which I'm sure many of you guys know compared to the titles like CSGO and others, they pull over millions of viewers. So yes, your biggest Call of Duty events in terms of viewership can match up to some events out there. They do actually pull some pretty decent viewership. The average concurrent viewership across the league so far for Call of Duty is not comparable to Overwatch League. We'll have to wait and see Season 1 of Call of Duty how these numbers, of course, do turn out. When it comes time for Grand Finals, though, the viewership is not even close. Overwatch, CSGO, they pull at least, usually, typically, an average of 1 million viewers on their Grand Finals. League of Legends even far above that. When it comes to Call of Duty and their champ events or their big events out there, usually anywhere from 200 to 300,000 maximum is their peak viewership. When it comes down to a stats and numbers perspective, Call of Duty League does not seem to be a good investment compared to Overwatch, yet we still have several investors out there still choosing Call of Duty instead of Overwatch, and I think that spells even further trouble for the league, who, by the way, is entering their 3rd year, and certainly some big issues going on there. We will talk on more in the future. Gary Vee chose Call of Duty over Overwatch and other esports, and he gave his reasoning as to why. What do you guys think about that? As next time, as you guys know, breaking down esports gaming news here every single day, all day long. Have a great, safe weekend. I'll see you guys back here sometime soon.